Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me tonight. We are going to be painting a garden gate, rustic wood fence posts with some climbing morning glory flowers on it. It's a very easy beginner project. I think definitely doable for a first-time painter. We'll be using a ruler to keep our lines straight. So I'll show you step by step all the way through how to do it, and let's get started. Okay, so this is my example painting, and let's go over the colors that we'll need real quick with you. Go ahead and click on those, hun. Thank you. Got my husband Mark here with me tonight.
Hey there, everybody.
He's man in chat, so if you've got any questions during the live show, you can post those, and he will try to get those to me while I'm painting. So this one is titanium white. This is a color called unbleached titanium, but any kind of off-white color will do, or you can mix up some white with some light like yellow ochre or something like that to get it just an off-white color. This one is cadmium yellow medium. This is a mixed green called yellow green, light green yellow shade. This is phthalo green yellow shade, phthalo blue green shade, Dioxygen purple, quinacridone magenta, carbon black, really any black will do, burnt umber, and burnt sienna. So pretty simple palette, and we'll be mixing most of our greens and background colors here. I'll show you how to do that. So I'm going to be using a 9 by 12 inch gesso board. You can use a canvas or whatever board that you want. You'll just want to prep it with some gesso if you're using wood or something like that. I use these practice papers. This is a Strathmore mixed media notebook. The link is down in the description to this particular notebook if you want to look that up on Amazon. But I like them because they hold the acrylics pretty well. The paper buckles a little bit. It was a little bit difficult getting straight lines on this one. But for the most part, they're really great for practicing. And I do most of my practice paintings in this particular notebook. It's a good size. And I happen to have a canvas that's the same exact size. So it makes it real easy to do. Let me set that aside out of the way. And let's just go ahead and paint the background real quick. I'm probably going to have Mark help me tonight. He's my blow dry expert.
Oh, I didn't get
extraordinaire.
I didn't get a blow dry cam.
I know you didn't. Maybe eventually we'll have a blow dry cam for you.
Okay, good.
All right, so I'm going to take a scoop of green and bring it over here and just smush it off on my palette. Somebody was asking me earlier this week about how I keep my paints brushes from getting the paint all the way up in here while I'm mixing the colors. So I'll kind of go over it a little bit more slowly tonight. So I've scooped up just off the side, just kind of like a shovel. I'll just kind of pull it from the side like that. And then I just set it down and press nice and hard and just twist my brush to kind of offload it in a clean spot. Then I'm going to grab a little bit of the burnt sienna the same way, offload that where I want it, and then grab a little bit of the phthalo blue. And these are going to be the background colors. I think I want almost equal parts green and blue here, and I'm just going to mix those colors together. And this, I'm really just kind of stirring them up at this point. I'm not really pressing down very hard. Just going to kind of trying to keep them in the same spot and sort of pulling them from the outside in so that they don't move and get bigger and bigger and bigger. So kind of like when you do with cake batter or something, you kind of pull it and try to keep it all in the middle. If it cakes up on my brush like this, I'm just going to smush it off. And just keep on doing it. I think I want a little bit more blue. So this is going to be our green for the background. This burnt sienna, it's kind of a amazing color. I never really used it a whole lot until recently, and I discovered this beautiful teal color that it makes when you mix it with phthalo blue. So I've been using it quite a lot in my recent paintings. It's just a really unique blue. And now we can just take, I've got probably way more than I'll need. I'm just going to lay it on my canvas here, and I'm going to grab some white and mix it right onto the canvas almost. Scoop up some more of that. And we'll just slap that on there. We're really not going to worry too much about the background. I just wanted it dark enough so that the white of the fence would show up against this background green. So you just want to make sure that the value is not too light so that you've got some nice dark color to contrast behind the garden fence. The photograph that I used was black and white, so there was no color references for me to kind of go by. I'll show you the photo real quick, but it had some sort of bushes back here and a nice, really very dark background. So I went ahead and just used this teal color for that, and I probably added a little bit too much white. I may need to mix a little bit more of this dark color. Let's do that. So how's chat tonight, honey? Got any new folks?
Chat is chatty. Yeah, we got people joining us from South Africa this evening.
Wow.
Staying up late, way past their bedtime.
Nice.
So
we appreciate that.
Yeah. And somebody asked, why is the reference picture up in the corner brown, but on your pad it is gray?
Yeah, I changed the contrast on my photo editing. I was messing with it to see. So I like the brown. I'll be doing mine in more brown colors because I liked it better. So the reference photo was more, or the one that I did, the example that I did was more gray just because I was kind of going off of the photograph. But once I got it done.
Oh, so it's been photoshopped.
It's been photoshopped, yep.
Interesting.
But we'll get those colors out of it. We're going to use a little bit brighter colors than I did in my example. Actually, my Facebook group got to see that, the practice piece yesterday. I do a Monday art chat with them, and so they got to see kind of how I figured out what colors I wanted to use and that kind of thing. So I just grabbed a little bit of the phthalo green and burnt umber, just a little bit of burnt umber, mostly phthalo green. And we're going to use that at the very bottom here and darken up this foreground right low where this fence is going to be. And I'm really, like you can see, I've got lots of brush strokes happening. We're going to go ahead and add a little bit more detail to that background with some bushes and things, but for the most part, it'll be just kind of impressionistic. We're not going to worry too much about what's going on in this background because this gate is going to cover most of it. The only part that's really going to peek through is up here and just a little tiny bit between the slats and maybe a little bit on the sides, but you can see most of this is going to be covered up too. So really it's just this upper part and this very little bit that's at the bottom that's going to show up. So I can set that up again. One thing I do like about these notebooks is that they have this hard cover. Some of my other notebooks that I've used before have a softer cover so they don't stand up as well, but these ones do. All right. I may have to have you do it twice, honey, because I think I need it dry now, and then we'll probably have to dry it again when I put the greenery in here. We'll see.
Okay. Well, while I'm drying, okay. Sam would like to know what inspired you to paint in general.
Oh, that's good. That's a good question. Well, I think crayons have a lot to do with it because I was pretty obsessed with those from a very young age. And one of my very first memories of preschool was painting, and they didn't give us enough time. They never gave us enough time to finish the paintings the way I wanted to. So I was always very disappointed that I never got to express myself in preschool. So, I mean, I pretty much started drawing almost constantly, you know, from a very young age and doing paint by numbers. And then when I found TV, Bob Ross was my like all-time hero. Absolutely loved him. Got into college and tried high school and college and tried starting to paint and tried to do it Bob Ross style. And I'm telling you, acrylics do not transfer to Bob Ross style. Not at least not the way he paints them, because he's using, you know, mediums and all kinds of stuff. And I just had basic colors and didn't know what I was doing and didn't know the properties of acrylics very well. And so it was a very frustrating process trying to kind of self-teach myself how to work with acrylics. But we got there eventually. hopefully. So my goal with these classes is just kind of help you avoid some of the pitfalls that I had. We're going to go ahead and make a little gate for this guy. This is Stickman. This is Mark's mascot here. We'll give him a gate here. We do something with him every week, depending on whatever we happen to be painting. We'll give him a little door here. There we go. He got a little gate off to the side there to get into the ocean.
Thank you, honey.
You're welcome. He got an owl last week.
Which way's up?
Thank you. Yeah, the dark part goes down. Alrighty. Yeah. Will you take that and just rinse that out for me? Because I don't want to dirty my water with that.
Yep.
He's going to clean out my large brush. There's a lot of paint in it. Okay, so I'm going to use a sponge for this background, but if you don't have a sponge, you could just use like your Deerfoot Stippler or something like that, or just a large scruffy brush. Even like a large brush like this would work, like a chip brush. We're just going to stipple on some greenery in the background. You know, it would just take a lot longer to do it with a smaller brush. So we're just going to use a nice large sponge, and it'll make the process go a lot faster. So I'm going to grab some purple. Seems like a weird color to mix your green with, but purple and phthalo green makes this really lovely dark green color. And you can tell already I'm going to need way more phthalo green. Put some out here. And the reason that I used a premixed color is just because it'll make it easier when we do the sponging and things. But this is a color that you can mix with these two. So, or maybe a little bit of like cadmium yellow light if you had it. It'll probably get it closer to that. But just add some yellow to your phthalo green and you should get a color that's similar to that if you don't have it already. Okay, so that'll be good. And I'm just going to kind of imagine just a few little bushes. So I'm just going to stipple and I'm just tapping. I don't have a lot of paint on here. You don't want it to cake up on your sponge because that will make a big mess. Kind of want some space when you stipple so that you can kind of see the background through a little bit maybe. Thank you, honey. Mark's a good
no
sport.
problem.
He just got off work. Still hasn't eaten dinner yet. Hashtag feed Mark.
Yeah.
We're going to try to get this done in about an hour, hour and a half if we can. I think it was about an hour and a half when I did it with my folks yesterday, but I was stopping to try to figure out colors and things, so hopefully we got that worked out. It might go a little bit faster for us. We'll see. All right, am I on camera? I feel like, yeah, I guess I am. Okay. I can't tell what the...
Well, your
the screen.
painting is.
Well, I know. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't off on this side.
Nope, you're good.
But no,
oh,
I'm
yeah,
lined
you're
up over here.
off.
I put tape down so that I could make sure that I was keeping it in focus this
There
time.
you go. You should be able to see all of it now.
Okay. Oh, good. Okay. You got it a little bit farther away. Thank you. All right. So I'm adding a little bit of that light green to this. And I just want to make sure that I'm using the, most of that purple color was out. I started out with that dark purple, but then I added more of the phthalo green. So by the end, I was really just using mostly phthalo green on it. And then I'm adding this color that has the yellow green in it to the phthalo green to make another color. And I want both of those colors to kind of be in the sponge. So I'm not going to tap them too much so that they have a little bit of each on there. And I don't want to tap in too much of this into the purple, because if you put this color, because it's got so much yellow in it, if you put it with that purple green, it would turn a little bit more muddy color. So just be careful of that. Don't get this yellow green into your purple color. And I'm just going to put a little bit of a highlight on my bushes. I'm not going to worry too much about their form. Like I said, the only part that's going to show is just a little tiny bit up here at the top. So we're just going to kind of give it a little bit of something to indicate that there's some bushes back there. And if you wanted to get real fancy, you could put flowers in your bushes or whatever you wanted to do. You could put more detail back there if you want to. It's your painting. your rules.
So people on chat are saying that you inspired them to paint.
Really?
And they thank you for that.
Oh.
So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That makes me feel good. That's what it's all about. I love it. I love it, and I'm so happy to get to share it with other people who love to paint. None of my friends here in town like to paint. So I feel like I have friends all over the world who get to share my love of painting with me now. It's awesome.
And we have a question.
Yes.
Natasha says that she's using a good quality paint,
Mm-hmm.
but just doesn't seem to get the same kind of coverage as you do. So is there something that she may be doing that contributes to that? Or what could she do differently to help them?
Is she using, what kind of canvases is she using? I wonder
Okay.
if it has to do with the canvas.
We'll see.
Because, I mean, sometimes the highly textured canvases will soak up more paint. I know when I work on the paper soaks up a lot of moisture and paint more than on a canvas. So if she's working on paper, that's pretty normal. Okay, let me see. Well, let me see if I can. Yeah, go ahead and dry, because I just don't want to mess it up. I'm going to have to draw over the top.
Okay.
So, sorry. Not normally. I normally don't have this much drawing.
Back in 20 minutes.
No. Where'd he go? Oh, he's doing it in the other room, I guess, because we got the new microphone picks up on a bunch of stuff. So we're getting real fancy with this one. We're going to give him some flowers this time on his gate. But, so it could be the way you're loading your brush. If you're using more paint, you may be pulling the paint out thinner. And, you know, I only mix up what I'm going to need for that particular area that I'm working on. I don't really mix up a lot of. I think the tendency is to, you know, when you need a color, is to take a lot of paint and mix up a huge amount of a color, just so you don't run out of it, which I understand because I used to do that myself. But it can waste paint if you mix up more than you need. So that could be I don't really know. Trying to think of some other things that could cause that.
Let's see if she's.
Okay, we got real fancy with it this week. He got flowers too on his cake. So, okay, that sounds good. So I actually got a new T-square, honey. Mark was there with me when I bought it.
Yeah.
It was pretty awesome.
So Sam Girl wants to know that when you paint, do you ever listen to music? Come on. Obviously, Sam Girl's new to this channel.
Yeah. I'm only laughing because it's like so weird for me not to paint with music. It's
you should hear it in the studio.
Just before the show, it's pretty much blaring.
It's pretty loud, yeah.
Pretty loud. Yeah, Mark's a good sport that way. Okay, so yeah, love it. It's like a huge part of the creative process for me, and we like to go listen to live music too. So we just got back from a trip from Kansas City where we got to see some bands. Okay, so I think I'm going to leave it a little bit more than an inch. So I'm going to do like an inch and a quarter on each side and just kind of mark that. And I'm about a ½ inch from the bottom of the canvas here. And I'm going to mark about an inch there. So I'm going to go ahead and go from there to there. And so an inch and a quarter and do an inch long line there. And then I'm going to come up just a little bit above that and draw a line. And a T-square will help you keep it straight. If you don't have one, you can just use a regular ruler and line it up against the edge of your canvas. But I'm gonna do like that, and then we're gonna do a line across there. You could also use chalk. I'm using a all surface pencil that's water soluble, so once we get the water on here, it'll dissolve away into the paint. I don't usually use regular pencils, leads, because they can show up underneath your paint color, so I usually always will use a water soluble pencil of some sort. Okay, so let me see. At the top here, I'm just going to go ahead and go right up to the top and leave a ruler width there. And we were at, what was it, 1 1/4, and went to 1 full inch there, and 1 1/4. This will just keep our fence post straight. I eyeballed it on my example one, so it's not quite straight, but so you can see it really doesn't matter because it's supposed to look kind of rustic anyway, so don't stress out too much about the math of this. Just have fun with it. I'm going to go ahead and do both lines so that I have that whole fence post. So these ones are quite wide that are on the ends, and then the ones in the middle will be the width of a brush. So we're not going to actually draw all the ones in the middle in. We're just going to use whatever width of brush that you have. And I used a Filbert, which is a rounded tip brush, so it gave me a nice rounded top to my fence posts. So this one is 1/2 inch, looks like. So we'll try to kind of measure it out so that we have a 1/2 inch. I'm going to round off the top of these to give it kind of a rounded edge at the top of my fence posts, there and there. And then there are just some wires coming off, so I'll come down just a little bit and do a line here and a line here. And these ones really don't need to be straight because they're going to be kind of wiggly. They're flexing because they've got the flowers on them. Let's do one right in the middle, and let's do 2 more there and there. So 1 in the middle, as close to the middle as we can find it, 2 more evenly spaced as we can get them. That'll be good. And then I'm going to come down to about, let's see, let's go down to 2 inches, and we'll do a line across there and a line across here. And that might not be low enough. Let me see. I think I might want it a little bit lower. Yeah, let's bring it down to about right there. So that's what's going to be 2.5. We'll go 2.5 inches there. And there. We'll be glad we did this math later. Trust me. We will be glad.
I don't hear you say that very often.
No.
We'll be glad we did math.
Exactly. That's not a normal sentence that comes out of my mouth. No. And these are a little bit less wide than these fence posts were, so maybe about a 1/2 inch or so, maybe a little bit more. Then there's going to be a crossbar that goes across this way, and you're going to see just a little bit of it. So we'll do a brush width that's about a 1/2 inch or so, so we'll do it about right there. It's going to go from this one to this one, and then it'll go across the bottom too. So just right along that bottom edge that we drew in. So these crossbars, and then we're going to do our arch, and you're just going to start from this point and arch up and over and try to kind of get it about even, and it'll go up to almost the top of the fence post there. If you have a protractor, you can do a exact curve if you want to get fancy about it. I don't have one, but or even the edge of a pen, like the edge of a plate or something like that, or I don't know, that's too small, but get the idea. And then what we're going to do is just split this up into slats. So we're going to, and I'm going to use, I think I'm going to use my chalk. Well, no, I'll keep using this. So let's see. This is 2, 3, 4, 5 inches. So we'll do one right here. That's our midpoint. Do a line right there. And this is going to go all the way from the top of that to there. And then I'll just space these out. So 5, I could probably get, how many slats did I do? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 on each side. So we'll just split this twice. That'll make it easy. Split it once here. And split it once again. On either side. And this line is actually going to be in the middle, so we're not gonna paint all over the top of it. So do it very lightly. This will actually be covered. We'll have to erase it after we get it. That's why I was gonna do it with the chalk, but it'll be a little bit more exact with the pencil straighter. It kind of is not as messy as the chalk is. There and there. Okay, so that gives us our gate. Hopefully you could see that. I try not to press it too hard. Hopefully you could see the drawing there while I was doing it. But that's all the math we got for you tonight.
Okay, so I knew I couldn't interrupt the math part of the show.
Thank you.
So what kind of white pencil were you using there?
That was the Scriball, and that's actually down in the description. There's a link to that. There's a black and a white one in the packs. They come in the 2-pack.
And it's water soluble, you said? Okay, yes. So that answers 2 questions.
That's what they come in, like that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And then the third question was, could you go back over the background colors one more time?
The background colors were phthalo blue, phthalo green, and burnt sienna, and then a little bit of white. And then the greenery was phthalo green and purple, and then phthalo green and the light yellow. So, or the light yellow green, I should say. And I only did that part. This bottom part had burnt umber in the green, just for that bottom part right there to make it nice and dark. And
I noticed you didn't put the T-square in the links down below.
I didn't. I need to find. Yeah, I need to find a T-square to put in the links. I did.
Yeah, and protractors.
It's already got paint on it. All right.
T-squares and protractors.
Yep.
This channel's changing, baby.
Now we can all right. That's the right size. Okay. So, and like I said, if you've got a smaller Filbert brush, just use the width of whatever brush you've got to do this. So you may end up with more slats in yours than I'd have in mine, and that's fine. The Gate photograph actually has several slats, way more than I used in mine. So I just did a little bit fewer. Make it easier.
So everybody can take artistic license to the number of slats and color and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yep. All right, so I'm going to use burnt umber here and a little bit of black. I used mostly black in the example, so this time I'm going to use a little bit more brown, more of the burnt umber for the background color. And it's going to seem weird because we're doing a white gate, but I tried it 2 different ways. I tried the gate with white first and then the black like streaks over the top, and it just didn't have the same look. So this one actually looked a lot better. This is the one where I did the white first and streaked over with the black, and then you can see the difference where it looks a little bit more like chipped paint by putting the white over that really dark color. So I really liked that look better than this one. So we were experimenting. That's the nice thing about having the paper to practice on, because then you can kind of do that. You don't have to worry about, you know, wasting a expensive canvas with the practice. You can try things and see what works. Okay. So now I'm just going to fill this in. You just carefully fill it in. If you want to, you can use your ruler to help keep you in line and just use that to go nice right along there. It goes really fast that way. You get a nice straight line. Use whatever tools you've got available to you. I don't feel like, especially when you're first learning to paint, you know, some people feel like they can't use traceables or, you know, tools like that. But even the masters used all kinds of tools. You know, even the better, paintings that are in museums and things, they all used all kinds of different tricks. Vermeer used mirrors and different things, and they had little gadgets that helped them with their perspective and all kinds of different things. So don't feel like, you're not a real artist if you take a few shortcuts. The shortcuts are there just to help us get to the fun part. And if you can't draw, that's okay. You don't have to draw to be able to enjoy painting. That's another skill altogether. You can learn to draw separately. It will help you with your art for sure. It will help make your painting easier, if you learn a few drawing tricks, but it's not a necessity.
So in our next giveaway, we need to give away T-squares.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, probably. It's something that people just don't think of.
Right. I just got one. I mean, I really hadn't been using them. I was just I use tape sometimes, so if you don't have a ruler that you want to get messed up, or, you want to use tape, that is a nice way to get nice clean lines without having to do too much work.
People can ask their significant others if they have T-squares out with all their tools and stuff.
Exactly.
Do that.
They may not get them back, but I've had to stock my studio with screwdrivers, hammers. I have all my own stuff now.
Yeah, I found my wire cutters in here the other day. I was like, oh, that's where they went to.
I thought they were mine. Well, I guess not.
Well, they are now. Trust me, I've learned that.
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
That's mine?
That's mine. Yep. You'll never miss it.
And plus, you're much better at remembering where it is.
That's true. If you ever asked for it, I would have been able to give it back to you.
Exactly.
I'm leaving just the tiniest bit of space between these two. Just a little bit of that green poking through on that line. And after this is done, what we can do is just go back in and clean up this white with just a little bit of water, and it'll come right off. So, see how we're doing? So we're going to do this whole thing with this dark brown, and then we're going to put our well, I say that we're going to do this part first, and then we got to get this one here in first, because the other slats are going to go on top of it, because it's just barely going to peek through in between. You just seen a little tiny bit of it right there. So most of it's going to be covered up. Excuse me, sorry, my arm's in the camera. Every now and then you might add a little bit of water. That can help your paints go a little farther too. That question earlier about the paint's not lasting as long, it might be that a lot of times that actually might be your issue. A lot of times when I've worked with my students, they will their brush will get dry and they'll add more paint instead of just adding a little bit of water, because more paint when you've got a dry brush just almost makes it worse. So I'm going to smush off the extra paint there. Try not to make my puddle too big there, but I'm just getting off that extra. And I'm going to wipe off the excess on a paper towel. So I still have that brown in there. I want the streaks happening. I'll grab some white and a little bit of that burnt or unbleached titanium. And I'm going to find a spot on my palette that I can kind of brush it in, but I'm leaving streaks in the paint. So I want the brush to have streaks of brown in it and white and unbleached titanium. So I'm not over mixing it. I'm just kind of barely, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe, little brush strokes. And it's kicked on there pretty thick for this technique. I find it's easier to have it thicker for this. And you're just going to barely touch it down. Well, I say that. I'm going to take off a little bit of that. There we go. Barely touching it down, let it drag onto the canvas paint. And this is gonna, it may not work that great at first here because this paint underneath is still drying. It's not completely dry yet. There we go.
Are you questioning my drying?
No, not your drying.
Okay, all right,
the brown that I just painted on here is not completely
we were about
dry.
to have words.
No, your drying was
Remember,
perfect.
I can control how you sound on air, so you got to be nice to me.
Yes, true. All right, grabbing some white, and I pressed my brush flat so it's got a nice straight line. If you can't get a straight line on your brush, just use a liner brush or something like that, and then you can line this up if you want to help you get a nice straight line. I'm just gonna freehand it, and I'm gonna put a nice bright line. Ooh, super chat, thank you. Bright
Yes, we
white
got a super-
right along the top of
Super
both of
chat
those
from
edges.
Kim.
Thank you, Kim.
Says, welcome back from vacation.
Aw.
And thank you for your lessons.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, here, Kim.
It was fun. It was fun getting away, but we're glad to be back. Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do these ones while I've got this paint on my brush. Might as well. I'm just going to go ahead and very lightly, and see how the brush is almost laying flat on the canvas. That's what you want it. That way it skims and doesn't cover too much. You're just wanting a little bit of that paint to kind of skip off your brush onto the canvas. And the more textured canvases actually work a lot better for this technique. So this canvas is fairly smooth, so it doesn't have a ton of texture for this paint to pick up on. But if you've got a really textured canvas, you'll get all these really nice lumps and bumps as you paint this on. Okay. You can already see that it's a warmer color. If you go over and get it onto your green where you don't want it, you can take a wet paper towel, get it right away so that it doesn't dry, dip it in some water, and I just put it over my finger like this, and I just can very quickly wipe that off. So if you go outside your lines, you can do that really quickly, just kind of clean it up. And I'm going to go ahead and take off those lines that I don't want down here while I'm at it. See that? Easy. Nice things about acrylics too is that they're easy to cover up your mistakes. So if you make a mistake, if you get, you know, it kind of gets out of control, or you get a wobbly line or something like that, you can always go back in and put some of this green back in, or you can put in some brown again and start over. It's pretty forgiving. The one thing you don't want to do is mess with it while it's drying. That's why I had Mark dry the background before we continued on, because acrylics will stick. They get sticky when they start to dry, and so they'll stick to your brush, and you'll end up with these clumps and all kinds of messes if you mess with them while they're. You'll end up with bare spots in weird places, and it's just weird how they work. But if you learn to just let them dry in between layers, they layer very quickly, more quickly than oils, a lot more quickly, so that you know, with oil paints, you may have to wait days for your layers to dry, and I just never had time for that. I had toddlers in the house when I was learning to paint. I had to get in and get out very quickly, and I don't have time to be waiting for it to dry. All right, add in a little bit more bright white there.
So do we need to put a link to hair dryers down below too?
There you go, yeah. Maybe, I don't know. I always just used my old ones whenever they started to die and or sound funkier. You know, they came to the studio, so.
Okay, so I got to work
Oops.
with
Got
some
green in there.
companies and
That's
come out
okay.
with a stickman line of
Oh,
hair
that'd be
dryers.
awesome, yeah. That would be awesome. Okay, just trying to kind of And I'm doing these vertically, you know, deliberately. So I'm not going this way. If you notice, I'm doing these long sweeping brush strokes so that if there's any streaks, they look like they're part of the wood, because the wood grain would be going this way.
So we've had people from New Zealand join us, and
Wow.
Somebody's joined us now from the Philippines, from Manila, saying good morning.
Wonderful. Good morning. I heard something about New Zealand recently. Something was in the news the other day about New Zealand. I can't remember what it was. I'm sure they could tell me. That's how good I am at world politics. I heard something about that. That's about as good as it gets, right?
And you know I don't watch news.
No,
so
you don't. I know
have no
you're
idea.
not. You're not going to help me.
No.
If you want, where you've got these squared off edges, you could grab a square brush. It's obviously a lot easier to get these parts square if you used a square brush on that. So I'm just trying not to have to clean out another brush. The fewer brushes I have to clean, the better. Okay, there we go. Looking good. All right, so now we've got all of the kind of gate bones ready for our slats. What are we doing on time? We're doing pretty good. Let's set this over here. I want to clean that out in my water. And we're going to go back to this brown. And now we're going to do the other pieces. Now that we've got these cross pieces in, we'll be able to see this a little bit better. I do want to go back in actually before I do that. I want to darken up this one because it's not that bright. I want a bright edge along that top, or it won't look the way I want it to. This one too. I'm just going to go back in and darken that up just a little bit because it's going to be in shadow since you're only seeing a little bit of it. Be a little bit darker than the rest of the wood. All right, now let's go ahead and use the ruler, and I'll even start on this side so I don't put my hand in it. How about that, hon?
Well,
smart.
that's good,
Who
but
outsmarted who?
you already got paint all over your hand and your fingernails and stuff, so
right.
it's kind of late. But at least you thought of
I
it.
thought of it.
Baby steps.
I'm so proud of myself, too. You're right. Darn it. Don't make me laugh.
And you didn't notice where I touched the paint and it wasn't dry. I lifted some paint off, so
Did
I'm
you?
safe.
Okay, good. Where? I don't know.
It's okay. Don't look for it now.
Okay, good.
We'll just keep moving on like it never happened.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to leave a little space on either side for that line to go. So I'm going to go right there, set my brush down, and I'm going to go right up to the top of the arch. So there's the arch. So I'm going to set my brush right at the top edge of that and kind of right smack dab in the middle of that. So there's a little bit of space right there. It's a little bit more than I left on this side. This side was very close to these two, but this time I'm leaving a nice big gap there. And I'm just setting my brush down. I'm going to let the top part do the work of having that curve. I'm going to set it down. This brush needs to flare out a little bit. So if your brush is wider than mine is, you won't have to do this, but you can just kind of let it skim. But I'm going to press it down so I get a nice wide gap there. Go right down the top, over the top of this one that's on the bottom, right there. I did that right. Yep, good. We'll have a nice straight line there with a little bit of a gap where we want our next one. So let's line that up. So I'm going to go just inside the line that I drew. Add a little little water to my paint here. It's starting to get a little dry. Okay, then I'm going to go up to the top right here, and I'm just going to touch the top of the line. I'm not going to go up to the very top of it. I'm just going to, wherever this brush touches the top of that arch, I'm going to start there and go down. And I can use that edge to kind of just guide this edge of my brush so that I get a nice straight line. It's a really nice little trick. Makes it super easy to do straight lines.
I think somebody figured that out years ago.
Who?
I don't know, but that's probably why they invented the ruler.
You think?
I don't think it's something you just stumbled upon.
It's
like,
my,
hey, wait a minute.
It's my idea.
It not only measures, but it helps you do straight lines.
Stop. You're stealing my mojo here.
Sorry.
It's like magic. Do you see that?
Sorcery.
It's so amazing.
What is this?
Oh gosh. Stop. Fine. This part is a little bit tedious. So if I had this on time lapse, I'd be speeding this part up for you, but I'm not, so you're just going to have to sit here and watch me do them. Sorry about that. Somebody the other day left a comment that they like to mute us and while they watch it. That was nice.
They like how
I'm so
you
glad
paint.
you took the time to tell us that.
But don't like listening to us.
That makes me feel so good. And
I'm sure they're like,
people that comment.
I got that off my chest.
Yeah,
It's been bothering me.
They know now how much I hate to hear them talk. So I like your tutorials, but you talk too much.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you
like
tried painting for 2 hours or however long and not say anything and just go, I don't know, whatever. To each his own. You know, at least they were watching.
Yeah.
I get the credit for it, whether you liked it or not. So, sorry to burst your bubble there, but I mean, we do want to, you know, I'm doing this to hopefully help people. So I'm hoping that you're getting something out of it, but I just thought that was kind of a rude thing to tell us. Like, I didn't need to know that. Is it helpful? Not really.
So uplifting.
Is it uplifting?
If you would just
no,
shut up,
not.
your channel would be perfect. Maybe we can have some voice actors come in for us. We'll have auditions.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. You can see. We're really broken up about it, obviously. Oh, God.
Yeah,
I already had 2 thumbs down,
sleep.
too. I'm not even going to talk about the thumbs down, so
Yeah.
because that just encourages them. 2 thumbs down before we even started, so it was like, this is going to suck. I'm not even going to... just going to let you know right now. You know good. Awesomeness. YouTube. You gotta love it.
Yeah.
Gotta love it. You just gotta laugh at it or it get to you. You know, you can't let it get to you. Can't please everybody. That's why we're so appreciative when anybody leaves nice comments. I'm just like, thank you. Thank you so much. We do. We get
some
99%.
awesome content. Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, really, we're very fortunate. We get so many nice comments. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
We have the best.
So if you can stand our voices, give it a thumbs up, like, subscribe.
Yes.
There's links down below to the different social media. So for Facebook and
It's true.
Instagram and Twitter, you can follow Angela or stalk her, depending on your viewpoint. And you can post paintings that you've done of Angela's on her Facebook group.
Yes.
We'd love to see
We have over 8,000 in there right now.
Yeah, it's incredible.
But they are wonderful people. Like it sounds like a lot of people, but it really is very a very sweet group of folks. They're very encouraging, very kind. It's just a really awesome place on the internet to hang out and share what you're painting of my tutorials. We've had to make it just my art. People don't understand that, and I feel bad because I do want to see everybody's art, but it got to be with that many people. If everybody just shares everything that they're painting, I can't see the stuff that's been painted from my tutorials. So I have other groups that you can post whatever you want, and I see those. But the Thankful Art one is just my tutorials, just so that it makes it easier for me to kind of see what folks are painting and interact with them. It's gotten out of hand. Really. We had to make that rule last year, I think, because it was just too much stuff that I couldn't keep up with anything.
Right. And there's an Angeluni group.
Yeah.
Where you can post everything.
Right.
All your original stuff. And so we encourage you to do that also. I
mean, unless you're a professional artist or a scammer, you pretty much can, it's the folks that are watching the tutorials and learning and want to share what they're learning. That's what it's all about. Okay, so we're almost there, halfway. This part's the part where I just kind of take my time because we want to get these straight, but then once we get these back there, you can see how fast the rest of this went. It goes real fast. So now I'm on the downslope, so I'm gonna do it right here. And hopefully this should line up with that one there. About the same, hopefully. There we go. And I haven't heard anything more about t-shirts, but we've got that coming up soon, so I'm really looking forward to that. And we should have some giveaways with some t-shirts once we get that going. Maybe it may end up being closer to during our 100,000 subscriber, once we hit that, if we ever hit that. Hopefully we will. Should be in November at this rate, maybe around Thanksgiving.
Oh, I'm saying October.
You think? I don't know. No.
Come on, people, share with all your family, friends, strangers. When people aren't looking.
That's right. They get free t-shirts. The faster we get to 100,000, the faster we get to do our giveaway, because we got the brush guys lined up to give away some brushes again. And we're going to give away t-shirts and stuff, and then we're going to hopefully have some gift certificates to give away for art supplies and things. So trying to line up some really cool stuff to give away as a thank you to our subscribers. Okay, 2 more. We're almost there. See, it already looks like there's stuff. Isn't that cool? How just having those cross beams already kind of make it, give it that look that we want. So I'm going to go just a little bit in. Go ahead and do this one, and then I'll do both of the bottoms at the same time. And that one's right there. We're at an hour. Okay, so that's about right. This is just, it's not difficult, it just takes a little bit of time. That's all. So I'm going to make a soft brown out of the burnt umber and unbleached titanium here. And I'm going to lightly go over this one. I feel like it got, oops, a little bit too light, so I'm going to dirty it up a little bit. Some of that soft brown. Okay, we'll go back over that a little bit with white, but alright, so grab some of that brown, some of that unbleached titanium. We'll just have a little bit of all these colors on here. I just kind of dragged it through all of those colors very lightly, and we'll just start from this side and work to the wet side, and hopefully it'll be dry by the time we get there. And like that. And this part's going to go a lot faster. It's actually really fun.
You got a weird sense of fun.
I think it's fun. If you tried it, I think you would like it too. You want to do one?
Oh, maybe.
Try it. Come try it.
Okay.
See if Mark can do it.
Let everybody know.
Okay. Let everybody know to watch.
Yeah, to stop chatting.
All your fans.
If everybody stopped chatting.
Because they're not listening to me. They're listening to you in chat.
We're just chatting it up over there.
Just talking. With all
Okay,
the
so pretend like
folks.
I wasn't paying attention to what you were saying. Because that never happened.
Okay. So I've just dabbed a little bit of white, a little bit of the unbleached titanium, a little bit through this light brown until I have them all on my brush, and I've barely touched on through here. So you're going to set it down kind of at a slight angle and just lay it on there, and just don't press down, just kind of drag it very lightly. You want to sit?
No, I'm okay. So my head doesn't get in the shot. And so just start in the middle or to the side?
Yeah, right there.
Just put it on there and just drag.
Yeah. Oh, look at you. Wood expert. There you go.
Oh, almost.
Yep.
You like that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Good job.
Yeah. Thank you. Give that a thumbs up.
Yeah. And I'm not fixing it. I'm just doing a little bit extra because it's going to take a little. Since we pressed down when we did the slats, and we didn't press down this time, so it's going to be a little bit more narrow than our thing. So you're just going to have to do it twice down like that to get the color. But it's already looking like a weathered old fence. Fun.
Man, that painting is like popping now.
I know. You did the middle one, so it's like the focal point one.
Exactly.
That's right. It's the keystone.
You can't take your eyes off of it.
I know.
It's like my poppy.
I think so. It's going to be epic. You can sign it too if you want to. I'll let you sign it. I used to do that with one of my girlfriends because we used to paint together, and we'd sign them together. We both worked on them. She'd do part. I'd do part. I miss painting with Ginger. I need to call her up.
See, painting is so much easier when you load the brush for me.
That's true.
I noticed
that is the hard part.
I noticed you didn't let me load the brush
well,
before I smeared it on there.
You weren't paying attention enough. I don't want to have to go over it all again. Plus, it was already pretty much loaded. I'm not having to do much.
Right. Good excuse.
Yeah.
I
Did you buy that?
I need everybody in chat to keep an eye on her, because last time I did this, she painted over mine.
I did not paint over it. I just cleaned it up a little bit.
Enhanced it?
I enhanced it. I added to it just a little bit. It was fine. I just felt like it needed a little help. A little bit. Just a little. That was the finger painting one. I didn't touch your puppy. Easy to work on your finger painting, honey.
I need to go back to kindergarten.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, the paint's getting a little sticky on my palette here, but I think I don't want to add water to it because actually the stickier the better almost with this. So this would be a little bit harder if you have fluid acrylics or, you know, like craft acrylics. It might not be quite as easy to get it to do this dry brushing.
So people who keep asking, how do you get your paint to go so far? I mean, because you're just like getting so much out of that brown. There's like nothing there and going on. So
I don't know. I'm just, I think a lot of it has to do with how fast you're working. Because I mean, the tutorials that take me about an hour usually take folks about twice that, 2 to 3 times that long. So their paint's just sitting on their palette a lot longer than mine is. So if I was, you know, painting for 3 hours, I'd probably have to refresh my paint.
Well, I don't think that it's just refreshing it. I think that people think that they have to scoop a lot more paint to get the same effect that you're doing.
Right. Yeah, I don't have a lot of paint on my brush here. And this paint is starting to dry, especially around the edges, so it's not completely usable.
Right.
Like, you know, I couldn't use what's down here anymore. So especially couldn't use any of that.
Yeah.
It's all dry.
I'm convinced now that we have to take this show on the road.
Really?
We need to do some live shows somewhere.
I like that.
So we'll start in Australia. Somebody can pay for that trip.
Okay.
And then somebody can pay for us to go to where else
Hawaii.
we want to go? Hawaii.
From there, we probably ought to go to Hawaii.
Hawaii definitely is lacking in the arts, so we need to go there.
Okay, I got white here, so I'm just kind of adding a little bit of bright.
I'll think of some other warm tropical areas.
Tuscany. Somebody told me that we could stay at their villa in Tuscany.
We need to go there for sure.
Definitely, that's a must.
Yeah.
Somewhere in France.
Yeah.
England for sure. Canada, I've got friends up in Canada that want us to visit.
In the summer, though.
Right now, it's beautiful.
Right.
Beautiful. All right, so that was pretty much our gate. One other thing, I did not. Oh, let me see if I have a plastic bag. I do. I'm gonna show you a little trick. Now, this is if you want to get real fancy with it and want to make it look like you've got dried on paint flaked off or something like that. I don't know if this is going to work because I haven't tried it in a while, but we're going to try it. So I'm going to play my bag over the top and I'm going to paint. Let's do a little bit of light blue. So we'll make a light blue paint, add a little bit of phthalo blue. To my white here. There we go. Kind of a light-ish blue. And I'm going to paint like kind of where I want that slat to go, right? I'm going to turn this over. So this is just a plastic baggie. And I want to let it dry just a little bit. Don't want it super wet because otherwise it'll just come off completely. So I want to let that dry just slightly. Let me see. Yeah, that may be too dry. Let's dab it on our paper towel first. Okay, that's good. No, that's good. All right, I'm going to set it down. I'm just going to lightly tap. Kind of rub it. It's almost like a transfer. If you had got one of those rub-ons. It's not showing up very good. I probably need to use a better contrasting color. You can see it a little bit. I think maybe I let it dry too much.
So maybe like a green?
Yeah, let's try a teal. I'll make it like a teal blue. I don't want it too noticeable because I don't want it to compete with what's already there, but let's try this. This will just kind of make it look like chip paint. Let's just dry just a second. Out of the way. I have a feeling this one's going to come off a lot better. So I'm just, when I first do it, I'm just barely going to touch it down and tap it and see what comes off. but it'll come off unevenly. You can kind of see where it's doing it right there. Let's do a little bit up here, even though it's not as wide. I don't know if you can see that. Get real close. See? It just looks like kind of chipped paint, and it's real uneven. It's the only way that I found that you can kind of get that look. It's hard to do with a brush, but it works really well if you use a paper like that. Let's just go ahead and do some on the other side since we've got it going on.
So would something like a wax paper or something like that work also? Or
yeah,
is that
I think so. Yeah, wax paper would work fine. Mm-hmm.
If you paint it on yourself?
Just anything that resists the paint, or...
No?
You could try painting on yourself, I guess. Let's see. This will come off a lot more if I do it right after I paint it. There we go. It's just like a
super
light dusting of color.
Too much.
Oh yeah, you're seeing it a little bit, I think.
For sure.
And if I let this paint underneath dry a little bit better, it would do even better. And if my paint's a little bit thicker on here, this paint is pretty watered down. If I used a little bit thicker paint, it will, let's do that. There's a little bit thicker. I'll show you the difference. It's going to be a little bit darker too, but see how much more came off there. Put some down low. Oh. This is a really fun technique. It's fun to do with kids too. I did this with my kids' class a lot. They really love painting on the plastic.
Kim would like to know, would Crackle Medium work?
Oh yeah, that would be really cool. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. With Crackle Medium, you would do your you do your brown the same way. Then you'd put the Crackle Medium on, and then you do your white on top, and it would crackle. And so you want a contrasting color with the Crackle Medium. But yeah, that would look really cool. All right, so let's put in our little nails on here and our doorknob, or our gate knob. I don't know. It's called
gate
knob.
Hashtag gate knob.
Grab a little bit of black, mix that in with the browns up there. Well, what is it called? I don't know. It's called a doorknob, I guess. Right. There's only nails on these ones for some reason. I don't really know why, but
maybe like a latch.
Okay, don't get technical, but yes, you're probably right. So I'm going to do these little circles with the opening, because the nail or the screw or whatever is getting some paint on it, so you're only really seeing the, oh, and these ones don't have it, so you're only really seeing the shadow of the screw. The top of it is white, or whatever color you've got painted on the gate. And you don't have to do a perfect little circle each time. You can leave a little imperfect, because it's not a not a perfectly, you won't see the same amount on each one. That's what I'm saying. All right, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Let's put in a little bit of dark between these two. I feel like they need a little bit of dark right there. So just with this color, I'm just gonna shadow the side of that post there slightly. Maybe do a little shadow on this one too. We could do that with all of them and just do the ones that you need. These ones really don't need it because I left a little bit of dark between them, but these ones probably do. Could use a little bit of dark there and a little bit of dark on this one. Let's give it a little bit of dimension. All right, let's put in our wire. Put some black and mix some white with it. And we'll put in our little wires, and I've switched to a number 2 round for this. I didn't mention that. Sorry. If you're not seeing it, just add a little bit more white. Just want it light enough to show up against that dark green. Keep it pretty thin. Doing a little wire that way. And I mean, if you want to get real fancy, you could do a side piece. I feel like it's probably going to have one maybe right about here coming down, but the cross pieces kind of do this opposite side thing, so they don't go straight down. They kind of loop around the wire, so you can do that if you want. See that? Most of this is going to get covered by vines though, so don't worry too much about it. There, and let's go ahead and, since we did on that side, we'll do, so we start above it and kind of do a line down, and then start just on the other side of it and do a line down, and just kind of skip sides so that it looks like the wires are kind of crisscrossed, looped around like that. Clean that out. I'm going to grab my black, a little bit of brown, just making a little bit darker color than what our background of our fence was. And this knob is, here, I'll draw it in with the black pencil. It's going to have, it's right about here, so it's just below or right on this slat that comes through here. It just kind of crosses that edge. So you can do a circle and then do a larger rounded out section, and another rounded out section, and then another circle, and then kind of just smooth those transitions so that they kind of wiggle from one to the other. You can see it better when I paint it. Being awfully quiet tonight, hon. Nothing major going on?
No, I'm just keeping an eye on chat, just making sure I'm not missing anything. And got, you know, a bunch of new people in here, and
great.
And make sure I'm trying to field all the questions. And
good deal.
Hey, I'm trying to do my job. Keep you on camera. I don't think you've been off camera once tonight.
What?
I don't think you've been off camera once tonight.
You haven't. You've been doing good.
I mean, it's going to be like an epic show.
No.
Okay, I'll zoom in really, really close so that guaranteed you go off camera.
That's good.
Closer?
Nope, that's good.
Okay, that's perfect. Right.
Now you got it so close it's a zoom. Okay, there we go. All right, so we're going to give it some dimension. I've picked up the unbleached titanium. I still have that black on my brush, and I'm going to go just inside. That's probably too bright, so I'll go just maybe one shade darker. There we go. And just go just inside like that. The top part's got some highlights there, and then the knob is right here, and it goes like that. So I'm going to grab some black and do like that, and then get my highlight color and just do right above it. And if I covered too much of it up, I'm going to grab the dark black. It's coming up on that brush there. There we go. I'll just go back in and darken up this one side over here. Make sure that that's nice and dark. Got some white this time. There we go. And we'll do a little keyhole too with the white. There we go. Okay, you can zoom out now. Cute. If you wanted to do a fancy, what are those called?
Hinge.
Hinge, thank you.
You're welcome.
You could do that, too.
I know you're in your art part of your brain. So.
I am the art part of my brain, that's for sure. That is the truth. Okay, so I'm going to take my wet cloth, and I'm going to just wipe off all of my little chalk marks, or my other marks here, and hope that my paint is dry by now.
So what brand is your number 2 brush you were using there?
That was the Princeton.
Princeton?
Yes.
Okay, and is that in your brush guys list?
Yes, it is. It's in my brush guys list. Whoops. Okay.
Oh no, did you just...
I kind of did mess it up a little bit there. I'll fix it.
So down below, there's a link to the brush guys with a code for Angela Fine Art to get 5% off. There's a list of all the brushes Angela recommends, and these brushes are on there.
And yep, these are all the brushes that I've been using tonight are on the list there. Yep. All right, so out of the whole painting, I think that's probably the hardest part. So if it's really stressing you out, just do a knob. Like, you know, don't do a circle and be done and call it good. You know, it doesn't have to be complicated.
Well, the people in chat said that's a pretty gate knob.
It is. I know. I like it. It was in the picture, so I did the same one that was in the picture. Sorry.
That was right by the microphone.
Okay, sorry. All right, so now we get to do our vines and our grass. So let's do the grass first.
Woo! Vines.
Shut it.
Oh. Sorry. I couldn't contain myself there. Just. Okay. Now you see why I do these videos. Somebody appreciates how exciting this stuff is. Obviously not you. All right, press this brush flat. I have added a tiny bit of burnt sienna to this phthalo green just to cut it so it's not so circusy. I've added some white here to it, and then we'll grab some of this green too. But we're gonna just press this brush flat. This is a 3/8" angle brush. You could use a liner brush instead if you wanted to, but I find that these angle brushes do really well for grasses. And I'm just going to pull from the bottom up and go right over the top of my gate here and do some very short little choppy brush strokes. Don't overthink these. Just kind of let them happen. As long as you've pressed your brush nice and flat on your palette and you've got a nice straight edge there, you can get some really good fine lines just by kind of dragging it up. And I'm going to kind of done sort of a fan shape. So sort of the grasses grow in these little clumps, right? So some of them will grow this way out of it, and some will grow this way out of it, and some will go kind of straight up. And I just sort of overlap them a little bit so that there's not an obvious start and stop spot on there. Just makes it a little bit cleaner. I'm gonna grab a little bit of black. Yeah, I feel like that. Just need a little bit darker. Put some darker green over the top of the gate in a couple places. And then down here, I'm just going to do some short little choppy brush strokes. They don't have to go all over the top of the gate, but actually in the picture there is some grass that's kind of growing up over, you know, it's overgrown, so it doesn't have to be completely clean down here. You can kind of break that up with some grasses. That kind of, and I'm just sort of dabbing at this point, just using the very tip of the brush to kind of dab and pull a few little small grasses and things. On this side, they come up a little bit higher. These didn't get cut right up next to the pole. This will also kind of just cement and ground the gates and make it look like it's part of the scenery around it. I'm going to grab some burnt umber here and add a little bit of burnt umber to my green. There we go. Grab some of that lighter color. And if your brush strokes are, you know, if your grass is getting too thick, you don't like,
it, just grab one of your round brushes or small liner brush, add a little bit of water to your green. I'll show you what you always want to add water to your liner brush, otherwise it will not paint for you. It just needs water to be able to flow off of the brush. Oh, this is that one that keeps hiding down in the thing. I'll pull it out. Look at how much of it was hiding. Okay, and just set it down and kind of drag it. I find that it's a little bit harder sometimes for beginners, especially to control a liner brush. So that's why I usually like to use the angle brushes for lines, but whatever you are comfortable with is the best brush for you to use. All right, adding water to this light green here, bright green. We'll add some of that to our grass. Just a few little. And if I roll my brush to a point, I'll get a finer line on it when I go to the canvas. I'm kind of doing like little circular motions too. It gives them a little curve to the grass. So they're not all straight up and down. And go right off the edge of the canvas in some places so that it doesn't look like they're all kind of just starting in the middle of that line there. Some of them go right up to the edge and off. Oops, I was right off the canvas there, sorry. And now that we have these darker greens, we can do these light colors. I did the darker greens on purpose, and I did these darker greens in the background for the same reason, because these lighter greens will now show up nice and bright up against these colors. Okay, almost done. Do a few little short ones in front. Okay, there we go. All right, now I'm going to use the same liner brush with this bright green. I'm going to add a little bit of the darker green to it just by pulling it through while it's wet. And we're going to put in our vines. If you want to, you can draw these out with your chalk and try to go over them, but I kind of find that for myself that it's just easier to kind of get a good wiggly lines if I just sort of hold the brush a little bit farther back from the ferrule. So this is the ferrule, the crimped part. So I'm holding it very lightly just below it, and I'm holding my brush upright and just at a slight angle to the canvas and pulling down or to this side. I never want to try to do my lines up this way because it'll be much harder to control. So just always try to be pulling the lines down towards you or from side to side this way. You'll just get a lot easier flow off the brush. Now, if you're left-handed, it might be difficult and more, different, but for right-handed folks, that is usually the case. And I'm just going to do several crisscrossing vines, and you don't have to see the whole thing. We're going to do flowers and stuff too, so we'll put leaves in. But just want to cover this gate with some nice winding vines. Make it look like there's morning glory clinging to it. I can pull through the darker colors, so I have a little bit of both colors on my brush. So get a little bit of variegation in my vines. You could do little curlicues. I think they do curlicues. The Morning Glory does these little loop-de-loops if you want to get real fancy. And make sure you cover your wires really well and
have those vines kind of setting on top of the wires and looping around them, because that's where they would be clinging to. So I need to do that on this side to kind of have some going across those vines, those wires a little bit. Okay. Let's grab our round brush again. This is the number 2 again. My hands are so dirty. They're just getting worse and worse as the night goes on. And I'm going to try to fix them at this point. And I don't know why I bothered to paint my nail. This is not coming off my nail. It's just stuck on like glue. It's just... Okay. So what am I doing? Okay, we're doing leaves. So I'm going to grab some of that phthalo green and I'm going to add some of that light green to it. And I add some little bit of white too. So I want both colors on my brush. Kind of like we did with the vines. We're just going to kind of pull through one side with one color, and pull through the other side, turn my brush over until it pull through the other side. So I have dark on one side and light on the other. And then I'm going to, I was looking at the vines and they have these heart-shaped leaves, Morning Glory do. So I'm just going to make these heart-shaped leaves, and they actually kind of point down towards the ground, all of them. The way they grow, they don't... Okay. So I'm just doing like 2 little brush strokes. I'm setting my brush down and pulling it to a point, and then doing another one kind of next to it so that they create these little heart-shaped leaves. And you can see I'm not being super careful. They're not completely clean, or they're a little bit messy. Some of them can be kind of turned to one side, so you're only seeing part of it, maybe. So we don't have them all like just perfect heart shapes. Might look unnatural. Just put a few like random ones in there, sticking up like that. Let's do the same thing on the other side. That one, I don't know what I did there. There we go. And I'm just thinking about placement. I don't want to cover too much of the mechanics of the fence. And if I've got like a bare spot on my vine where I need to fill in, I'll put a leaf there. That's why I wasn't too worried about like doing a solid line all the way down, because we can throw these leaves in to kind of fill in little spots if we need to.
Which brush are you using there?
This is the number 2 round.
2 round. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So just these little heart-shaped leaves all the way down. Like that. Really cute. Clean that out really well. And then we're going to use our quinacridone magenta now. We're going to make a light pink. So I'm going to grab some of that white, bring it over here. Make a nice bright white pink color. This will be the center of our flowers. So we'll put those in first. Just going to dab in, maybe a little bit brighter than that, but I'm going to dab in some circles where we want our flowers to go. Some of them are going to be real close together. Some are going to be more spaced apart, so just kind of keep that in mind. And you could do any number of Morning Glory colors. There's all kinds of different colors that grow And I'm doing the kind of purple ones, purpley blue with the pink centers. So, but you can use whatever colors ones you want. If you just want to do blue with the white centers. Oh, I was off camera, hon.
Dang it.
Yeah, just zoom out normal. Well, yeah, most of it.
Yeah, almost. We got a couple on camera.
Dog's snoring. Okay, so just doing little random circles for the centers here for now. Not worried about them being perfectly round. In fact, it's probably better if they aren't exactly round, because nothing in nature is exactly perfect. So the more, that's kind of why I like painting flowers, and especially why I like them for beginners, because they're very forgiving. You can, there's a lot of randomness, and so it doesn't have to be perfect. All right. Oh, we got a lot of flowers. Lots of flowers. I like it.
Yeah, do you have an odd number of flowers?
Huh?
Do you have an odd number of flowers?
I don't know. It doesn't matter, I don't think, today, because we got so many. You won't be able to count them anyways. Your eye won't.
Oh, so the odd rule only applies if you can count them.
Right.
Okay.
Easily, like probably on one hand. Or two, maybe.
Good, because I don't have 3 hands.
Okay, so now we're going to use the Dioxin purple, and I'm going to use some phthalo blue, which I don't have. Or you could have actually just used phthalo blue and quinacridone. Oh, darn it. Lost my cap. And I got more paint all over me. Oh, that's... Yes. 2 for 1. Okay, so I want a little bit on the blue side of the purple scale here. A little bit of blue, bluish purple, and we'll grab a little bit more of that white so that we have a little bit of brightness happening, because it's a very, very dark. Purple is almost black. If you don't add any white to it, it will look black against this background. So we need a little tiny bit of white at least to make it a little bit brighter. And still trying to get the right color. Let me add a little bit of the quinacridone to that.
Many people in chat are saying that this is beautiful.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Especially that one slat. They can't take their eyes off it.
Like, it's the most beautiful one. I'm going to clean that out, because it is not clean enough.
Oh, people want flower close up.
Okay. Right. So you're just going to have to watch.
Well, you got to stay on camera. I'm zooming in,
Okay.
so
Okay.
we could have a zoom in zone. Also, you got a good outer zone, but
Okay.
you got to move it over
here,
to the
I think
left.
I've got the right color here now. There we go.
Move it to the left so I can zoom in more. Thank you. I need
I'm going to go around all of these circles with my purple. Great. These are very, very random looking. They're not going to look exactly perfect. If we wanted to get them a little bit closer to the real thing, we could make these little dark starburst things happening. We could go back in with the dark purple and add these little dark things, maybe, to some of them. Like that. And I'm just going to kind of do and if you want to, you could do a few where you can see the stem. The stems were kind of whitish, so we can do a couple of them where you're like seeing the stem come down before the flower. me see. I'm trying to find ones that it would work for, but what are you laughing about?
I'm listening to the video, and you could hear Scooter panting.
Yeah.
So I just had to make sure everybody knew that that
It
was
wasn't,
Scooter.
yeah, it
panting.
wasn't us. Yeah, Mark's not over there waiting for dinner. Okay, we're at 30 minutes. Sorry, we're almost done.
No, you're fine. Take your time.
Okay,
People like to zoom in.
good. Just kind of dabbing these, so it's got like kind of ruffled edges. They're somewhat smooth edges, but they are kind of fluted. So there's like 5 petals there. If you want to get really fancy, you could do like 5 little petals all the way around. Might try that on a couple of these. And then go back in with that dark purple and add those little starbursts. I'm kind of covering up a lot of this pink, so I'm going to have to go back in and add more, but there we go. In the very, very center is yellow. And we're going to add a little bit of white to it to brighten it up. Cadmium yellow is opaque, so it'll cover pretty well over the top of this, but since we're using such dark colors, the white will help it even more. It'll help it. And that was almost dried out. Sometimes you have to break through that crust to the gooey bits inside. You could save putting out your yellow until the very end. So there we go. We'll add a little dab of yellow. Kind of lost most of my pink there, but you can add a little bit of pink to yours again if you need to.
The people in chat are saying I should put my initials on my slat.
You should. I thought what would be really pretty is if you wanted to put your name on the gate, or the Andersons or something like that, or even welcome, you could do like a little sign right here that was just like a little square piece.
No, not everybody has to put the Andersons on theirs.
Only us.
Just us.
Or the other people that are Andersons.
Anderson, right.
Right.
If your name
That
is
makes
Smith
sense.
or Jones or something, you could put your own name.
If you want to.
Right.
Okay, you're gonna have to zoom out for this side because I can't do it. It's hitting my palette. There, that's better. Okay, just going ahead and doing the yellow while I've got it on my brush. Okay. All right. I'm going to roll that brush to a point. And whoop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll just do it that way. It'll make them a little bit bigger, and some of that pink will still show through. Really not getting too fussy with these. We want them to be the idea of a flower, not necessarily like perfect. You can take your time with them, be a little bit more careful if you want. And if you're in a dark area like that and you can't see the edge of the flower, then you just need to add a little bit more of your white to your color so there's a little contrast in the values. And values just means light and darks of your colors. I'll grab some of that lighter color. There we go. Now we can see that against that dark background. You are typing a lot today. You need to get a less clicky typewriter or typer thing again. We talked about that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
that's all I hear all the whole time. It's just click,
I've been
click,
searching.
click, click, click,
I've been
click,
looking,
click.
but every time I see the price of new tablets and computers, I get scared and say no.
Yeah. They are expensive.
Yeah. I mean, this one is about 4 or 5 years old, so it's
time.
The battery is starting to not last.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's inevitable, but it's like, it's tough spending money like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're bad about that, though. You'll spend money on everybody but yourself. You really do.
Oh, true, but, you know, I'm like, oh, I can last.
I only need one pair of black pants, you know.
I can only wear one pair of shoes at a time.
But you need variety. That's the thing. I would get bored wearing the same pair of shoes every day to work or whatever. You gotta. I think you have 2 pairs of shoes in there. I try to get him to buy stuff. He won't do it. I'm a bad influence. I'm a shopping enabler. All my friends will tell you that, actually. Don't bring me along unless you want to buy stuff.
But I was enabling you too.
When?
At the art fair.
That's true.
We were at.
Yeah.
Up in Kansas City.
That's right. I bought way more.
There was a lot of good local artists there. They had a lot of unique stuff. It was really interesting.
Yep. It's like, which one should I get? I don't know. Get both of them. I'm like, well, that doesn't help me.
Somebody wants to know if you're using the same colors on these flowers as you did in the example.
No, I'm using more pink. I didn't use pink in the example one. So if you want the colors that are in the example, it's just Dioxygen purple and white. That's all I used in that one. And then the yellow centers. So now I can go back in and add some details with the Dioxygen if I want to, or make them brighter purple. Yeah, I decided to do these ones that had a little bit of pink, pop of pink in them. I just liked them. So, but all I did differently with the purple ones is just did the darker, the outline is actually a little bit darker purple than these ones are, and I didn't add the blue to them. It's just straight Dioxygen. So, okay, you can zoom out now. It's good. And then I think to finish it off, I'll go back in with some white or unbleached titanium. I got a lot of unbleached titanium here. I haven't used. And mix that with my greens that I've got on my palette here. And I'm going to just put a few highlights on a few of these leaves just to brighten them up. Just kind of setting down and pulling a highlight on just a few of them to pop them out if I need to. They're kind of disappearing. Some of them need it. And I think we're about done. Get this done. I need to sign it, but we are done. Hopefully you'll be in. Let me see. No, it was an hour and 45 minutes.
Not the 30-minute warning?
No, we're done.
Are you sure?
I'm done. Yep, I am.
You can't trick us.
No. I'm going to sign it.
We know how
I've got my Pigma pen. It's a waterproof. And I come up about 1/4 inch from the edge so that if I frame it, it won't cover my signature. So, there we go. Hope you guys enjoyed this and hope you try it. And thanks for stopping by tonight. We really appreciate you watching with us live and those who watched the replay. And
If you would like to see more like this, leave a comment and let us know. And we'll see you on Saturday. We're going to do a kind of eclipse themed painting, so it should be fun. We'll see you next time. Bye.